On a fateful day, three surfers, all in their early 30s, were discovered dead in a well in Baja California, Mexico. A fun getaway turned into a nightmare. Their names were Jake and Callum Robinson, two brothers hailing from Australia, and their friend Jack Carter Rode, an American. They were just regular guys, passionate about surfing and looking for a break from the hustle and bustle of life. They had traveled to Mexico in April, hoping to catch some waves and create memories that would last a lifetime. Instead, an unimaginable tragedy unfolded. They were last seen on April 27th, surfing and camping along the Mexican coast south of Ensenada. Their absence was first noticed when they failed to show up at the accommodations they had booked in Rosarito, a popular tourist destination known for its surf breaks. Concerned family members reported them missing, and the search for the trio commenced. In a desolate section of Santo Tomas, Baja California, authorities found three bodies at the bottom of a well, 50 feet deep. It was a grim discovery that confirmed the worst fears of their loved ones. The bodies were identified as Jake and Callum Robinson and Jack Carter Rode. A chilling piece of information was revealed: they had all suffered gunshot wounds. Their bodies bore the grim evidence of gunshot wounds, a horrifying end to their lives. This shocking discovery marked the beginning of a harrowing investigation into what could have led to such a horrific end for the three friends. It was the start of a quest for justice and the search for the truth behind the tragic demise of Jake, Callum, and Jack. As the news of the surfer's death spread, a multi-agency investigation was launched involving Mexican authorities and the FBI. A sense of urgency marked the initial stages of the probe, with the surfers' loved ones and friends anxiously awaiting any news. The surfers were reported missing after they failed to show up at their booked accommodations, and the race against time began. The fact that these three men, all in their early 30s and full of life, vanished without a trace was alarming. The last time anyone saw them was on April 27th, while they were surfing and camping along the Mexican coast, south of Ensenada. The alarm bells rang louder when they didn't show up at their Airbnb in Rosarito. Deborah Robinson, the mother of the Australian brothers, took to social media to report their disappearance. The Mexican authorities, working hand in hand with the FBI, launched a search operation. The surfers' last known location, their social media activity, and any potential witnesses were all under scrutiny. The authorities were also looking into their travel plans, their interactions, and their activities leading up to their disappearance. The search led them to a grim discovery in a desolate section of Santo Tomas, Baja California. Three bodies were found at the bottom of a well 50 feet deep, according to the FBI San Diego. All three had suffered gunshot wounds. The bodies were later identified by the relatives as the missing surfers, but the discovery raised more questions than it answered. Who would commit such a heinous act? What was the motive behind this atrocity? The investigation was just beginning, and what it would reveal was more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. The surfers' lives were not taken in a random act of violence. They were targeted for their truck. This chilling revelation comes from the authorities piecing together the final moments of Jake and Callum Robinson, and their friend Jack Carter Rode. The investigators believe the motive behind this horrifying act was rooted in a simple, yet deadly, desire. The killers wanted the tires of the surfer's truck. It's a chilling thought that something as trivial as tires could lead to such a tragic end. Picture this: three friends, surfers, camping along the idyllic Mexican coast. Their tents pitched, their truck parked nearby, a scene of adventure and camaraderie disrupted by the shadow of greed. The killers, it seems, spotted the surfers' encampment, their eyes falling on the truck and its tires. The tires, something we rarely give a second thought to, became the focus of their fatal attention. A truck parked in the peaceful seclusion of a campsite, a symbol of freedom and exploration, turned into a deadly lure. But these surfers weren't just victims, they were fighters. When they stumbled upon the thieves, they didn't back down. They stood their ground, defending what was theirs. But in this case, their courage had a heartbreaking cost. The killers, it seems, were willing to go to any lengths to get what they wanted. In this grim tale of greed and violence, the surfers found themselves in a struggle they could not win. Their resistance, while brave, tragically led to their untimely deaths. A camping trip that began with the promise of waves and camaraderie ended in a well in Baja California. Tragically, the surfers likely lost their lives resisting the robbery. A chilling reminder of how a simple act of thievery can escalate into a deadly confrontation, forever altering the lives of those left behind. The surfers were not just robbed, they were brutally murdered and left in a desolate well. Picture a peaceful day, the sun shining, the waves crashing, three friends enjoying a surfing trip, blissfully unaware of the horror that was about to unfold. It's a chilling thought, I know. The grim reality is, these young men were not just victims of a robbery, they were mercilessly executed, their bodies discarded like refuse in a forgotten well, 50 feet deep in a desolate section of Santo Tomas, Baja California. The brutality of their demise is almost unimaginable. Each of them suffered gunshot wounds, likely inflicted during a struggle with their attackers. The friends who had traveled to Mexico to ride the waves and bask in the sun ended up fighting for their lives, a battle they tragically lost. The murderers, it appears, had a callous disregard for human life. After taking the lives of these three surfers, their bodies were unceremoniously dumped into the well. But the killers didn't stop there. To further conceal their heinous act, they covered the well with boards, making it almost impossible to discover. Imagine the shock and heartbreak of their families when the bodies were finally recovered, about 4 miles from where they were believed to have been killed. The grim details of their last moments must have been a crushing blow, adding to the unbearable grief of losing their loved ones. Authorities worked painstakingly for 2 hours to retrieve the bodies from the well. It was a grim task, a stark reminder of the brutal reality of this crime. These were 3 lives cut short, 3 dreams shattered, 3 families broken. The brutality of the crime was a shocking revelation, even in a region known for its violence. As the investigation progressed, 3 individuals emerged as suspects in the heinous crime. These were not shadowy figures lurking in the dark corners of the internet or unknown entities hidden behind layers of deceit. No, these were 3 Mexican nationals, living and breathing in the same world as the rest of us who, for reasons yet unknown, crossed paths with Jake, Callum and Jack in the most tragic way imaginable. The Mexican authorities, working in concert with the FBI, swiftly moved to apprehend these individuals. The suspects were cornered and taken into custody without incident, a testament to the relentless pursuit of justice by the law enforcement agencies involved. But what was their connection to our victims? What could have possibly led them to commit such a violent act against 3 innocent surfers? The suspects are currently under the intense scrutiny of the police, their lives being turned upside down as investigators comb through every detail. Every lead is being followed, every statement analyzed, every piece of evidence meticulously examined. The aim is to construct a clear and accurate picture of what transpired on that fateful day, to understand the motive behind this brutal act, and to ensure that justice is served for Jake, Callum, and Jack. The suspects' identities have not yet been revealed, but we do know that one of them has a history of violence and criminal activities. Could this past have played a role in the events that unfolded? Could it provide a key to understanding the mindset of the suspects and their potential motives? These are the questions that investigators are trying to answer. While the suspects were in custody, the investigation continued, uncovering more shocking details. The truth of what happened to these 3 surfers is slowly unraveling bit by bit as the investigators piece together the puzzle. And as they do, we can only hope that justice will be served and that the memory of Jake, Callum and Jack will live on, not as victims of a senseless crime, but as 3 friends who lived their lives to the fullest, chasing the waves and the freedom of the open sea. Behind the headlines and the gruesome details of the crime were 3 victims, their lives cut short in their prime. These were men with dreams, ambitions, and a life full of potential. They were not just victims of a brutal crime, they were individuals with stories to tell and dreams to live. Jake Robinson, a 30-year-old from Victoria, Australia, was about to start a new chapter in his life. He was on the trip of a lifetime, a journey he had planned before embarking on his new career as a doctor back in Australia. He was a man with a mission, a promising future, and a life full of potential. His life was abruptly ended, but his spirit lives on in the hearts of those he left behind. His older brother, Callum Robinson, 33, had moved to San Diego, chasing his dream of becoming a professional lacrosse player. He was a man who believed in following his passion, in making a mark in the world and in living life on his own terms. His journey was tragically cut short, but his memory continues to inspire those who knew him. Their American friend, 30-year-old Jack Carter Rode, also from San Diego, shared their love for adventure and the great outdoors. He too had plans, dreams, and a zest for life that was infectious. His untimely death has left a void in the lives of his loved ones. Their families and friends have paid tribute to these three men, remembering them not just for the tragic circumstances of their death, but for the lives they led, the dreams they chased, and the love they shared. Vigils and protests have been held in their memory, and surfers have honored their fallen comrades with a paddle-out ceremony, forming a circle floating on their boards in the ocean, a poignant tribute to their love for the sea. Their death was not just a loss to their families, but a tragic end to promising lives. Each one of them had a story to tell, a dream to chase, and a life to live. Their lives were cut short, but their memories live on, reminding us of the fragility of life and the courage to live it to the fullest. The surfers' murders were not just a tragic incident, but a stark reminder of the violence in the region. The brutal deaths of Jake and Callum Robinson and Jack Carter Road sent shockwaves through the communities they left behind and even beyond, sparking widespread outrage and grief. Protests and vigils sprang up in their memory, not just in their home countries but also in Mexico, where they met their tragic end. These gatherings were not just expressions of sorrow but also platforms for a resounding call to action. Demonstrators expressed their anger and frustration over the violence that had claimed the lives of these young men, who were simply seeking adventure and camaraderie, and ignited calls for improved safety measures. The incident also cast a dark shadow over Baja California's reputation. Known for its stunning beaches and world-class surf spots, the region is a popular destination for surfers from around the globe. But the senseless violence that took the lives of Jake, Callum, and Jack has served as a chilling wake-up call, highlighting the dangers that lurk beneath the surface. In the wake of this tragedy, there have been calls for increased vigilance, better security, and more effective law enforcement in the region. Many believe that the murders of these three surfers should serve as a catalyst for change, a turning point that triggers a serious and sustained effort to tackle the violence and crime that plagues this otherwise idyllic part of the world. As the waves crash on the shores of Baja California, they serve as a somber reminder of the lives lost and the urgent need for change. The surfers' deaths have left an indelible mark on the region, a tragic testament to the brutal reality of crime and violence, and a rallying cry for a safer, more secure Baja California. Despite the progress in the investigation, there remain many unanswered questions. As we delve further into this chilling case, we find ourselves grappling with a myriad of uncertainties. The brutal murder of these three surfers, seemingly victims of a random and violent act, has left a void filled with queries. The most pressing question on everyone's mind is the potential involvement of local cartels. While it's true that the area is known for drug gang violence, it is typically considered safe for tourists. So could this brutal crime have been an unfortunate encounter with a desperate and violent cartel, or was it the work of opportunistic thieves? The FBI's involvement in the case brings another layer of complexity. Their presence suggests the possibility of international criminal activity at play. But what could be the possible connection? Could the surfers have unwittingly crossed paths with something far more sinister than a simple robbery gone wrong? Then there's the question of the fourth body found in the well. Who was this individual? Were they a victim of the same killers, or is their presence in the well a grim testament to a separate act of violence? And of course, the question that haunts the victims' families. Why were Jake, Callum, and Jack targeted? Was it simply because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or was there a more chilling reason behind their selection? While we ponder these unanswered questions, the investigation continues. Forensic teams meticulously comb through evidence, investigators question potential witnesses, and law enforcement agencies work tirelessly to piece together the puzzle of this tragic case. As the investigation continues, one can only hope for justice for the three surfers. Their lives were brutally cut short in a senseless act of violence. However, the journey to uncover the truth behind their deaths continues, offering a glimmer of hope that justice may eventually be served. In the midst of the tragedy, a poignant tribute was paid to the slain surfers. Surfers from around the globe gathered together, their hearts heavy with grief and their surfboards under their arms. They took to the ocean, the same ocean that had brought so much joy to Jake, Callum, and Jack. With every paddle, the waves seemed to echo their sorrow, a shared mourning for the lives cut short. A tradition called a paddle-out ceremony was held. This time-honored ritual within the surfing community is a way for surfers to pay their respects to those they've lost. In the grand expanse of the sea, They formed a circle, their surfboards bobbing gently on the surface of the water. They were united in their grief, yet found solace in their shared love for the sport that had brought them all together. The surfers held hands, their circle symbolic of the unity and camaraderie that defined their community. It was a moment of silence, a moment of reflection. Their heads bowed. They remembered their fellow surfers, their friends. They remembered their laughter, their spirit, their shared love for the waves. Their memories were as vivid as the horizon that stretched out before them, a poignant reminder of the lives that were lost. The paddle out was more than just a tribute. It was a testament to the strength of the surfing community, a community that, despite the tragedy, continues to stand together. It was a poignant reminder of the joy of surfing, a joy that Jake, Callum, and Jack had lived for. It was a solemn vow to never forget, to remember their fallen friends every time they hit the waves. As the circle of surfers floated on the ocean, it was a heartbreaking tribute to their fallen friends, a reminder of the joy of surfing that had brought them together, and a solemn vow to never forget. The tragic end of the three surfers is a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life and the fragility of safety, even in seemingly safe spaces. In the face of a dream surfing trip to Mexico, the lives of two brothers from Australia, Jake and Callum Robinson, and their American friend, Jack Carter Rode, were abruptly and violently ended. Their disappearance on April 27th sparked an investigation that led authorities to a well 50 feet deep in a desolate section of Santo Tomas, Baja California, where their bodies were found, all three bearing gunshot wounds. The motive behind this heinous crime, as revealed by Baja California's chief state prosecutor Maria Elena Andrade Ramirez, was as senseless as it was brutal: a robbery for truck tires. When the surfers resisted, they were killed. The tire tracks of their lives, which once symbolized adventure and freedom, became a tragic symbol of their end. 3 individuals are now under investigation, suspected of having a connection to the crime. Yet, as the authorities dig deeper into this case, a profound sense of loss hangs in the air, a void that no amount of justice can truly fill. The victims, all in their early 30s, were more than just the headlines of a tragic incident. They were sons, brothers, friends, and adventurers. Jake was about to start a new job as a doctor in Australia after what was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. Callum, a resident of San Diego, had moved to the US to pursue his dream of becoming a professional lacrosse player. And Jack Carter Rode, also from San Diego, shared the same love for surfing that bonded the 3 friends. In the aftermath of this tragedy, the surf community and their loved ones came together in a paddle-out ceremony, forming a circle on their boards in the ocean, a silent but powerful tribute to their fallen comrades. The tragic incident has raised many questions about safety, especially in regions known for violent crimes. It has sparked outrage and calls for improved safety measures to protect tourists and locals alike. As we continue to seek answers and justice, we remember Jake Robinson, Callum Robinson, and Jack Carter Rode, 3 surfers whose lives were tragically cut short.